Ms. Pearl, at this time I'll turn it over to Dr. Spence for
July
hours
8th.
of information. Set?
July 8th.
July 8th. No, this was printed on 7th. July 8th.
Just checking.
21. Print on that.
First, I'd like to start with an update from Ms. Preston, financial update.
So, this is time of year we wait for the tax commissioner to give us the digest, so hopefully we'll get that towards the end of this month and maybe able to roll back the rate and see how the numbers are. For May, the financial report is attached. Almost forgot to do it. Pearl came to remind me. I'm all confused because the last couple of years we've had this meeting combined with the board meeting all in one day. Anyway, there were no budget amendments in the month of May for the general fund that affected the overall revenues and expenditures. Year-to-date revenues as of May are 100% collected, and that mainly has to do with our collection rate being so high because of Jeff Chapman, the intangible recording, the people refinancing, and then car sales. Car sales is through the roof. So anyway, so local tax receipts for May were a little over 2.5 million. Year-to-date expenses are 86% of the budget, and we're about 92% through the year. Old news: April sales tax were received in May in the amount of 2.5 million, which was 62% higher than last May. The year-to-date collections are 22% higher than last year. And for the month of June, we came in at another record high of almost $2.7 million in sales tax. Crazy. Crazy stuff going on. Are there any questions for the May financial report? Some other things that I have on the agenda for Tuesday night, on proposed action items under 3B, we need to contract service for a sign language interpreter. That needs board approval. And we also need to contract services for a deaf and hard of hearing teacher. That needs board approval. We also have the surplus computers on there, but the numbers out there right now are incorrect. Stephen was just telling me that they needed to be updated. So Tuesday night we'll have the updated numbers. We do a refresh every year, and another crazy thing that's going on is the monitors that we need for the refresh are not going to be here for when school starts because there's a glass shortage. And we're using all the old monitors to start the school year, and then as soon as the new ones come in,
We'll put the computers in the classroom this year's old model.
yeah, right. The computers are coming,
Okay.
but they're just getting here. I mean, we did order those back in March. This is just crazy. Times are crazy right now. But anyway. So that's all I have for Tuesday.
Any questions for Ms. Preston? Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Green? Ms. Miller is still on vacation. Somewhere.
Hey, how are you?
Hey,
How
how are
you?
you?
Doing
I
Somewhere.
have Leadership Institute, and I'll also cover summer enrichment. You should have two documents or two sets of documents. The color copy with the cape. I tried to embody the Stroller Glen theme for this year on that document. It's an itinerary or agenda for Leadership Institute. Essentially, Leadership Institute this year, or Leaders Institute, is getting all of our district leaders and school-based leadership teams together to discuss new district initiatives, talk about learning loss and school improvement plans, and really anything that's new to the district, like the MAP assessment protocol that we're going to be implementing, revamping Achieve 3000 and how we're going to utilize that to progress monitor students. In addition to, we're bringing some of our vendors in. Eureka Math will come, as well as representatives from PL Plus, to make sure that our principals are almost creating a sense of urgency before we even start with their plans going into the school year. So we wanted to make sure that this year, obviously with our new leaders in place, that we provide an opportunity for them to get to know us and collaborate on school improvement plans together. So you have the comprehensive list of everything that we're going to cover. We included safety and security as well as student services. So there's some new things within those departments that are going to be discussed as well. We're revamping some of our critical policies like the truancy policy because we know that we've had some issues, chronic issues with student absenteeism. So we want to make sure that our leaders are all on the same page going into 21-22. So essentially that's what the Leaders Institute is going to be.
Any questions about the Leaders Institute?
I'd be interested in the opportunity meant about students can show up and show us how school's letting them down and how to fix it.
Yeah,
I read that and I'm like, boy, that sounds really interesting.
yeah, it's a really interesting study by New Teacher Project. It came out in 2018, and it really talks about the inequities in schools and how we're not preparing all of our learners for college and career, and what we can do differently as leaders. Rigorous content, obviously putting more students who wouldn't be represented in rigorous content exposing students who are grade levels behind to high quality instructors or our best instructors so that we close achievement gaps, because often we put our best or most effective in some of the higher level courses like AP instead of our lower level courses like algebra. And so it really is a study where it really gets our leaders to think about what decisions we're making and obviously the impact that they have on our students. And there's an executive summary. I didn't think to bring it, but there's a really good executive summary that's short that talks about the highlights of that study.
If you don't mind, if you
I'll print it.
send it. Yeah, it just sounds interesting to me.
Any other questions?
So the other document that you have is Summer Enrichment, and it is a little dated. My secretary is out this week, and she sent an email out to get updates on our numbers for Summer Enrichment. Dr. Spence had a great idea to, market Summer Enrichment as fun activities that really get the kids active and up and doing things that would be non-traditional, like STEM activities, coding, programming. And so we partnered with Microsoft to do some training for teachers because we thought that teacher skill set would be an issue, and so that happened in June. So you'll see on the document the types of programs. Most of the schools are doing some type of STEM related activity, virtual headsets, we're doing even drone flight. I order drones for every site, and so they have an opportunity for kids to develop apps for those drones. And so that we were hoping would be what engaged them more, was the appeal to get them to come. We also put out a message for principals to directly invite students who were struggling, learners who were struggling with virtual learning, to offer a remediation for reading and math as well. And so a lot of what you see right now needs to be updated, specifically those numbers. I know I just hung up with Dr. Akins, and his numbers are double what is on the paper. And so, because I figured that maybe the concern would be that we have way too much staff for the number of students. And so these numbers will be fluid because we did not close the enrollment for Summer Enrichment. We want to try to get as many kids as possible on Monday, and Monday is the start date. It's Monday through Thursday, 8 to 11:30 for the next 2 weeks, upcoming weeks.
Any questions on Summer Enrichment?
Altima.
Just because of the change in the location, the transition, they're packed up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Dr. Whitehead, COVID-19 update.
So just wanted to touch base with you on where we are at this point in time. We've been receiving some calls about requirements that we'll have in place. And just as an update, many of you, I'm sure, are aware on July 1st, the governor's executive orders related to a public health emergency expired. Within those previous orders, we followed the guidance specified for schools that were laid out in those executive orders, as well as the DPH guidance that was empowered by those orders. So we'll continue to monitor and see where we are with any new emerging requirements. And of course, our schools have learned just some best practices that they'll keep in place regardless of pandemic status for like cleaning and things along those lines. But the current only requirement that we have to follow at this point in time is that the federal order still requires masks on public transportation, and so our students on school buses, while they're being transported at this time, will still have to wear a mask, and the drivers as well. So that is currently something that we'll have to have in place and monitoring that regularly. The last I checked, there's not an end date or expected end date on that order, like we were able to see on the executive order when they were set to expire. So just keep an eye out on that one. And then other actions that we have for the start of the year are to, if we are notified that someone has tested positive, they would still be isolated for the 10 days, either the date of their test or the date of the onset of their symptoms. And that would be based on the fact that they had tested positive for COVID-19. We will allow masks in schools for individuals who choose to wear them. And then, as I mentioned, we'll keep those regular cleaning schedules, and students can obviously still bring their hand sanitizer and those things with them based on comfort with those pieces. Still, the vaccinations are available for those that would want to take advantage of that, particularly related to not having to worry about the 10-day isolation that would come on for a positive test. Out of the current executive order, there's a continued current executive order for the impact of COVID-19. And within that, the only references to schools are the extension of students to be able to submit college admission scores. And that's related to the Zell Miller Scholarship as well as college admissions. And so that is still in the language of the existing executive order. And then yesterday, as an additional piece of information, Chief Ellis shared information he received from the Georgia Office of Safety Fire, which I think is an interesting way to term that office, that they have lifted what they had in place as temporary guidelines for fire drills and other things to include social distancing and have other protocols related to COVID. They have lifted those, and so we will return to safety drills pre-COVID style. So we will conduct all of our safety drills according to the prescribed guidelines that we have had in place for all those years, and those temporary guidelines have been lifted. Do you have any other questions related to our update?
It's nice to be looking back
Yes.
instead of forward. I mean, yes, it's still here, and yes, it's still happening, but we're still at single digits upper, but which is, if you want to get dramatic, I can say it's double, but it's not significant, even double. So anyway, just thanks for all the work to get us to this point. We try to find normal.
Yes.
Don't go on a plane because you got to wear a mask for hours and hours. And their air exchange rate is like every 2 minutes. That's the safest place in
I was
the
going to
world.
say, it's one of the safest travels based on how the air flows through the cabin, but that's an interesting conversation in itself.
Think about where we were at last year and the unknowns and what we were talking about. And we're pretty sure what we're going to be doing this year. So hopefully nothing will change. Dr. Whitehead, you want to talk about your proposal?
Yes, sir.
3E?
The item 3E related to 21st century technology, this is actually a request to go through the approval process again for the technology that we would like to use with the 21st century after school programming. This was originally approved in November for the devices themselves, but based on availability of devices and then the timelines for getting new bids, and then the schools determining that they would prefer to have the 2-in-1 model, it kind of kicked it down, so it's back up for approval because it is a different vendor. And the total amounts would be different. So I'm just presenting that back to you for consideration Tuesday as an approval item for us to get those ordered for the after-school programming. Again, it shows the sites, Alabama, Burroughs, and Goodyear. And just as a reminder, those programs are still going on this summer. So they have had great attendance at both the Terrell Thomas and the Burroughs Millette Club site. Those have been the primary locations for those summer programs, and they've been in full swing, so hoping to see some benefits of students having that every single day through the summer.
Any questions for Dr. Whitehead?
So it looks like it was what, 53,717.04
Yes.
for some Chromebooks and
licenses and things like that.
That's right. And like I said, the main differences have to do with the model changing, but also the vendor based on bids. When we went to bid that out, and the federal grants, specifically this one, no longer will let us just use the state contract bid, so we had to go out for 3 separate bids to be able to come up with the price for this one.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehead.
Thank you.
Mr. Blackerby, facilities update?
hello, hello.
How you doing?
Good.
So, I'll just go ahead and jump straight into not sure what's first on the agenda, the Glen Academy gym addition is coming along pretty well. We've got the first floor of the mezzanine built, we're laying block for it, should be setting steel on it here in the coming week, so we can start getting that closed in, put the air conditioning units in there. Our end goal for that is try to get that there, started for the first week of school, so we can get the air turned back on in the old building. At the same time, Tyson Construction, they're already making plans to go ahead and start doing the site work and laying out the second phase of the building while they're finishing that up. So things are on track there and looking pretty good. Haven't been any major delays as far as that goes. And then big one is the Alabama elementary replacement. We're still pushing forward. We have a hard date of July 19th. We're going to try to move the teacher materials and classroom materials over from the old school to the new school. The classroom wings they're essentially 100% complete. All the furniture is all set up in the classrooms and ready to go. The front of the building is where the work is concentrated now. Cafeteria and dining area, that's about 90% complete, and we'll be tying up loose ends on it in the coming weeks. And right now we're concentrating on getting the fire alarm and intercom and all that set up so we can make sure we get a certificate of occupancy. But we feel like we're on track to be able to make that move on the 19th. We're still going to be working up until the day students move in and beyond. Right now we've put work in the gym on hold. Essentially until we get the rest of the building complete. We're using it to store materials and other things. So when we do move into the building, we may not have the gym accessible at that time. And of course, we'll still be doing some outside work on the grounds and the playground and that type of stuff. But other than that, we are moving along. We didn't have any major setbacks yesterday with the rain and the storm because we pretty much had everything sealed up. So we should be good as far as that goes. And then moving forward with the other renovation projects we have going on, Needwood, the roof over the admin area is essentially complete, and we're working on the classroom wing roof now. Hope to have that substantially complete by the time school starts so we don't interrupt the teachers in the classroom. With the roof work going on, we will be meeting next week, I believe it's July 15th, with the subcontractors on the next phase of Needwood, Golden Isles, and Overford, which is starting the renovation on the inside of the building. I believe our bid date on that is July 21st, so we should have a GMP for those for the next board meeting, so we can move forward with that. Of course, Needwood, we're going to be doing hopefully a wing at a time, or several classrooms at a time anyway within the building. We're working out a plan for that. Overflow Point, the same thing. We'll be doing about half a wing at a time within the building. We can move the students around to do that, and then Golden Isles, of course, will be moving to the old Altown Elementary School for the first semester while we completely renovate the inside of that building. We're still trying to figure out from the availability of equipment and other things if we can complete the kitchen renovation during that time that we don't have the building occupied, or if we need to wait and do that next summer. It's really going to depend on if we can get kitchen equipment in the fall after we get the pricing on it. So that's kind of the hinge point on that at this time. And other than that, we are doing the gym floors at Greer and Sterling. Greer's about 90% complete. Sterling we should have complete by the end of next week, so we'll have those complete at that time. And as far as the East Bosque goes, collections are up again another month. It was another record-breaking month. I think cumulatively right now we've collected on East Bosque 4, I think it's around $11.5 million, and the anticipated collections were around $8.5 million, so we're about $3 million ahead of schedule there. And big project working out of that right now is the St. Simon's Elementary. Work that's going on there. Site work is going well. Ran into any major snags so far. They removed the track, partially demoed the call for portable classroom, which is not portable, but the small classroom out back. We are still working through a few issues with the site approval with the DOE. We have approval, but they've asked for some specific things to be written into the specifications for the building. And Mr. Tootin and I have been working on that this week, and should have all that resolved by the end of next week. And the bid date for that, for the next phase of that, which is the 2-story building, is August 10th. So I don't know if we'll have that finalized for the next board meeting for September. But we have plenty of site work that needs to be done, and sewer connections and other things in the meantime that will be occupying our time anyway with that. So.
Any questions for Mr. Blackerby about any of this?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
And Ms. Haywood.
Evening, how are y'all doing? Good. Tonight we wanted to provide you with an update with regard to attendance and discipline for the FY21 school year. And so the first slide that we'll look at will be an elementary comparison, just so that you can see the number of kids. The 3 columns that are represented, the first column is for students who've missed 5 or less days. The middle is for 6 to 15, and the third column is for those who missed more than 15 days for the school year. And then the next slide will show you middle and high school, excuse me, middle school, the 4 middle schools. The third slide will give you the information for our high schools. And the next slide will show you our programs, Coastal Academy and GLC. One of the things that we're planning on doing to address concerns we have with students that have missed a number of days is utilizing our parent outreach and support coordinator to facilitate setting up parent meetings with those students. We can actually drill down to who those students are and identify if there are any trends. In other words, if this was an isolated year because of COVID, or if this has been an ongoing concern with those families, so that we can get a hold of it on the front end, be more proactive and responsive to that. So, the next slide will give you an update with regard to discipline for the year. It's really exciting to see that all of our elementary, middle, high schools all had students, 90% or on average or above of students who had 0 to 1 referrals across the board. So there's your elementary. The next slide will show you middle school. The next one will be high school. And the final slide will show you our programs. And again, we attribute a lot of the changes with regard to positive behavior to some of the transitions and things that we put in place for COVID with regard to minimizing transitions between classes and minimizing individuals in the cafeteria during times. And so we're excited about the data we see for this upcoming year as well, and going to definitely use a lot of this to help us with putting some things in place for next year. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes,
And you
ma'am.
may have said this and I was just absorbing the information, but On the absences, COVID absences count or quarantine counts in these absence numbers?
We did not count students absent that had COVID-related absences. They were basically qualified present. We wanted to make sure that students were.
If there was evidence that they either logged on
Right.
or communicated with the teacher, they were counted present.
During the virtual.
Yes.
So the
Those students that
15
were
or more is COVID aside, they were just not in school?
Or not logged in.
Or not logged in
able to
during the
communicate.
virtual.
That,
Okay.
that happened more, do you think?
Yeah, okay.
We
And
had to
I'm-
have a reason to count them present.
Makes sense.
And I do want to also add just another piece of information is that the majority of those absences were generated during the first semester, which, as Dr. Spence mentioned, has to do a lot with some of our virtual students not logging in. We were able to return around 96% of our students for face-to-face the second semester, and so students were in school.
Okay, well, that's good. Because some of them look a little alarming.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. And the final slide just gives you, back in March, we gave you an update on the number of tribunals that we held for the year, and this gives you the overall for the 2021 school year. Any questions? Anything I can provide any clarity on or follow up?
Remind me, did we, for the drug testing policy, I can't remember, we suspended that at the very
We
beginning.
suspended it where we did not do it this year, because we couldn't get anyone to come in and test.
Right,
But we're going to do that next year, and that will fall under steep orders.
okay. So all these are just from doing random checks, or dogs or something like that for the drug and the any weapon stuff? that may
Yeah,
be
whatever
available.
reason, we caught them.
Mhm.
If you would, when you present that, if you don't mind adding historical data, or you have something to compare to, because I can't remember what
Yes,
last year
sir.
was. If
Well,
you don't mind.
yes, sir. We'll make sure for the next time that we do a comparison from the follow-up years, but it just wasn't kind of fair to compare
Yeah.
last year to other years because last year was a different year. But certainly moving forward, we'll make sure that historical data is provided so that you can have some context to
Mhm.
see how things are doing.
And when I talked to Dr. Whitehead today about our test data, and probably this too, we're gonna go all the way back to 2017. So we're gonna go 17, 18, 19, and then show, or 20, and then show this year, and then we'll keep going. But we're gonna take it back to 17, so we have 3 normal years
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
compare to.
Yes.
I mean, you can look at the data and see what the outliers are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you have,
And yes, sir, we have Ms. Lynn Love, Executive Director for Communities and Schools with us tonight, as well as Arlene Dixon, who serves as one of her program managers, and they're going to provide you with an annual update with CIS. I'll turn it over to you, ladies.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Love, the Executive Director of Communities and Schools, and we just like to update the board yearly on our previous year. We have all of our data ins. We want to share some of that with you, and then a couple of other things. So just to let you know that last year we served more than 500 students at the 8 schools where we are currently serving. We did actually expand into McIntosh County Academy as well. 98% of our students at the 2 local high schools that received CIS services graduated on time. We did have one student that did not graduate. I believe she became pregnant, and we worked really hard to get her into the night school, and she just did not. She just kind of refused to do that. So unfortunately, we broke our streak of 100% graduation over the past 3 prior years. But I still think that that's a successful rate of graduation for our students. Just to kind of break it down a little bit, Glen Academy, 96 students were case managed there. We had 16 seniors who all graduated on time. 9 are enrolled or in the process of enrolling in post-secondary education. 5 entered the workforce, and 2 enlisted in the military. And then at Brunswick High School, 94 case managed students. We had 17 seniors, 16 graduated on time, and one there did not, that I explained the reasons behind that. And then 10 are enrolled in post-secondary education, 4 entered the workforce, and 2 enlisted in the military. A little bit of our middle school data. We are in Needwood and Glen Middle currently. We do have a private funder, a local private funder, who has come to us and wants us to expand into Jane Macon next year. So we have already identified and hired our site coordinator for Jane Macon. A lot of experience, very qualified. She's met with Dr. Forcina. Dr. Forcina thinks she'll be a great fit there. So we'll be in 3 middle schools next year. But at Glen Middle, we case managed 79 students there. At Needwood, 68. And all of those case managed students were promoted to the next grade level. Elementary school, 54 students at Brunswick case managed, 55 at Goodyear, 57 Altama, and elementary school students all were promoted to the next grade level. Just a little bit about the Glen Learning Center. We started there 3 years ago. It is a fully functioning CIS site. We are implementing the model there that includes family engagement and teacher-student incentives, just like at all of our other school sites. Case management is available to all students. We have all students are able to sign that permission slip allowing them to be case managed. We focus on clinical support and a trust-based relational intervention, training for staff, and formation of a focus group for implementation in partnership with Hope 1312 Collective. We've provided monthly rewards for students reaching their academic and behavior goals. We facilitated and mentored life skill groups weekly in partnership with Safe Harbor Street Beat program. And academic tutoring services provided by a volunteer to serve an average of 10 students weekly there. I spoke with Sinitra earlier, and I believe we had 51 students who were able to transfer back to their home school successfully over this past school year. Tanya Barbie is our LCSW on staff. She could not be here tonight, so I'm going to kind of give her report for her. She is able to provide those one-on-one therapeutic services to our CIS students who are in need of that service, but for whatever reason have not been able to get access to that outside of school. Either transportation issues or insurance issues, or parents just aren't following through. So we're able to provide those one-on-one services on the school site. So this past year, Tanya worked with 27 CIS students receiving that clinical support. She facilitated some small groups at Brunswick and Goodyear. She had a total of 164.25 hours of individual clinical support, and about 62 hours of group support was provided. A couple things she just wanted me to mention is that there's a tremendous need around grief support with our students. Some of our students obviously have actually lost a parent or a guardian to death, but also the experience of losing that parental figure in their life, whether they become incarcerated or not in the home anymore. It's a huge theme that she's seeing, is that there's a lot of need for support around grief for our children. These are just some pictures she wanted me to share with you of some of the students that she provides that support to. And then I'm going to let Arlene explain the MTSS Tier 3 behavior intervention and her role with communities and schools.
Hey, I'm Arlene Dixon. 2 years ago, we started providing the Check and Connect intervention for students that were identified in their school building by the MTSS core team that may need Tier 1 PBIS, wasn't successful for them with their behavior or even a tier 2 intervention. So our site coordinators began providing the Check and Connect intervention as a tier 3 behavior intervention for students in their school buildings. So our site coordinators collect progress monitoring data. They meet with those students on a weekly basis to work with their targeted behavior in the school to help them be successful in the classroom. So we started this school year with 54 students. They were receiving the intervention to help with either behavioral or social emotional needs. And then at the close of this school year, we were down to 14 students that needed to continue with that intervention. So we either had students that were successful in Check and Connect and the services they were receiving from their site coordinator, so they were able to be removed out of the MTSS process and they're doing well in their classroom and they're not a disruption for themselves or for the other students in the classroom, or they were then referred on for special education evaluation or 504. So that is kind of the process that we are involved in to help the teachers, the students, the families, as well as the school counselors, because that can be a large workload on them. And so just taking that small piece and I help do some of those meetings for them and kind of take some of that workload off, all while making sure the site coordinators are providing that intervention with fidelity.
Thanks. So just to wrap it up, just kind of wanted to share our plans for next school year with you all. Already mentioned that we have a private local donor committed to supporting Jane Macon for 3 years, then with an intention to continue that funding as long as we're implementing the model with fidelity and meeting all our goals. They really want to do this long term, so that's very exciting. One things I wanted to mention that was new this year, and this was Sanitra's idea, and it was an awesome idea, so I just wanted to share it with you, but just really an opportunity for the principals of each of our school sites and our staff to come together. We did it early June, I believe it was June 3rd when school was out, just undistracted time out of the school building to really be able to sit down, discuss the year. Our site coordinators sat with the principals at each of their schools. We did a SWOT analysis where we could identify our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats as an organization. And it was just really a great time to really be able to communicate some of those things to each other. And our staff really walked away enjoying that time together. Again, I think it was just a time outside of the school building when students were around, just undistracted, to really be able to sit down and communicate and network a little bit. And I believe Sanitra said she had some good feedback from principals and maybe some other administration as well. So we want to follow up in January. I'm hoping this is going to be a yearly thing we can start doing. Just kind of see how first semester went. We're going to go back with our team and go over the results of that SWOT analysis and have some plans in place to how to address some of the things inside of their school after they heard back from their principals. And then we want to follow back up in January and just kind of see where we are and regroup. And so it's just something that I think was long overdue, and it made a huge impact, so we're really excited about that. And then just to let you know that we continue our monthly meetings with the district office with Valerie and Sanitra every month, just to sit down and talk about where we are and what the needs are and what we're meeting, what we need to change and adjust, and just those kind of things. We'll continue with that. And then with the addition of Jane Macon, we are projected to case manage about 580 students total. That's case management, one-on-one case management for the 2021-22 school year. Of course, we provide services inside the school building for all students in each of the school where we serve, especially those basic needs and tier 1 supports. So that'll just be the case managed students that we're working with.
How do those students come to you? Is it a teacher recommendation, a parent referral, a parent request?
It can be, anybody can refer a student to communities and schools. It usually comes from a guidance counselor
Okay,
or a teacher inside of the school.
right.
But we do have a site team meeting, where we're meeting every 9 weeks, I believe, and helping to identify those students inside the school building. But it's usually coming from inside the school.
At the high school level, we have a lot of students refer their friends.
Yes.
So if they work with the site coordinator and then they know something going on in their friend's life, then they're like, I have somebody you need to meet, and they'll bring them into the classroom. So it comes from a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
Which at that point, sometimes that's who knows them best.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'm just happy our meeting with the principals. I think we discussed it a few years ago. Maybe it was Tanya, but I think that's good being able to kind of know what y'all do and the boundaries, and because I know coming and going sometimes it gets confusing.
Yes, it does.
So with the leadership, it's good to sit down. So I mean, I'm glad y'all are doing that. That's a big plus.
I am too. I think we all walked away realizing we probably should have done it a lot sooner. And even though we are having those site team meetings pretty regularly and those kind of things, I still think it's important to kind of be undistracted out of the school building and just be able to meet with the leadership and our staff. It was very impactful.
We started this 10 years ago, and I mean, we were dealing with like 15 or 20 kids, and now we're almost 5% of our student population. So, great job.
Yeah, thank y'all
Thank
for what y'all
you.
do for sure.
Thank you for all your support, and yeah, if you have any further questions, you can always reach me or contact Sinitra. You can get a message to me. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Edgy, that is all I have tonight.
Alrighty. Bring this down to other. Is there any other before we go into executive session? No other? Okay. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for land, legal, and personnel.
So moved.
I'll make the motion that we go into executive session.
Moved by Ms. Gibbons, and I'm gonna let Ms. Sams do the second. All right. All those in favor? Everybody's ready. I know you're raising your hand, Mike. Okay. Executive session at 5:45.
Yeah, we'll call, come out, we'll call him. Go back there.
Hey, Mike, we'll
session.
Open session. Mr. Mandela made the motion. Give a second, please.
Second.
Second by Ms. Sams. All those in favor? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Moved by Ms. Sams, second.
Yes.
Mr. Mandela. All those in favor? Motion passes at 6:28. Meeting is